It's Ron Reader digs the universe. I'm Ron Reader, and this is Ron Reader Digs the Universe, and tonight, John Lennon's Nigeria-Biafra thing. I think it was while I was first reading the 1978 Marvel Comics Super Special that told the story of the Beatles that I ran into John Lennon's strange reference to the Nigeria-Biafra thing. During the late 1960s, when the band was falling apart and while Yoko's influence was radicalizing John both artistically and ideologically, he returned his MBE medal, which all four had received earlier in 1965, to the Queen. The MBE medal signifies membership in the most excellent order of the British Empire, and if you're cool enough, they might even make you a knight, which is what eventually happened to Sir Paul and Sir Ringo many years later. The medal John returned was accompanied by a letter in which he wrote, "Your Majesty, I am returning my MBE as a protest against the Nigeria-Biafra thing, against our support of America in Vietnam, and against cold turkey slipping down the charts. With love, John Lennon of Bag." John and Yoko were, they were all about bags at this point. It was such an obscure reference, the Nigeria-Biafra thing, that I've never forgotten it, even though I've been too lazy over the years ever to look around, to get around to looking it up. But YouTube recently told me I should watch a video about the weird sides in the Nigerian Civil War, and they were weird, with the UK, US, Israel, and the USSR supporting the Nigerian government, and with France, China, and, again, Israel supporting the rebels in Biafra, and I suddenly realized that this is the Nigeria-Biafra thing. Three dominant tribal factions were fighting about whether the southern Biafra region would break away, and Biafra has all the oil in Nigeria, which was the motivating factor for support from the more powerful nations. I mean, oil, of course, colonialism, imperialism. The European imperial era lasted about 5 centuries and still exists today on a much smaller scale when you consider the US invasion and occupation of Iraq, or if you consider Israel as Europe's final colonial project. Basically, imperialism was about violently taking over lesser developed nations for economic gain. Any good coming from this, and there was some good from time to time, was entirely incidental. The point was to drain the colonized nation dry, and Europe was really proficient with this. When the imperial era ended after World War II, because none of these countries could, afford to do it anymore, it left behind a horrid mess. The strife between India and Pakistan, the entire Middle East, and Trump's shithole countries in Africa, all due to national borders drawn by Europe for Europe. Such international chaos became ripe for the picking in the 1950s when the U.S. pioneered economic imperialism backed by covert ops and the military. Basically, it's the same thing, just less obvious. Under the all-new revamped economic imperial order, the strong still dominate the weak, literally running other nations for our benefit instead of theirs through corporations, banks, and the IMF. It allows developed nations, us, to disown all moral responsibility because, they're just doing business, they're legitimate businessmen. it's just as brutal, just as deadly, just as wrong as classic imperialism. John Lennon got this way back in 1969 when most people did not. It's taken me decades to get around to finally and fully understanding this really important moment in his life, but it's pretty cool that I did, because it makes me all the more certain that the essential values of the 1960s counterculture are the right values. I am forever happy that I fell in with the Beatles at such a tender, impressionistic young age. In the text box below this video screen, for your edification, I am linking the YouTube video on the Nigerian Civil War, and for your listening pleasure, I am also linking John Lennon's song, Cold Turkey. I'm Ron Reeder, and this has been Ron Reeder Digs the Universe. Join me, Ron Reeder, again next week for another episode of Ron Reeder Digs the Universe.